You have seen bronzer as blush. You have seen bronzer as contour. Today I'm going to show you bronzer as bronzer. Hi pretty people, it's Crystal, your very own personal beauty professional, and today I'm going to give you some professional tips on bronzer. This is one of my top asked questions, and that is, what is the difference between bronzer, blush, and contour? And there is very much so a difference. I'm going to explain it today. My goal is not to really criticize others for doing, bronzer as blush or contour, but because I'm trying to give you a combination of perspective from a beauty lover, which I am, and also a professional who has worked in commercial, film, and runway. I'm trying to combine those so you have a pro's opinion and that everyday girl's twist on makeup too. What I seek to do with my channel is, instead of going for cookie cutter advice, we want to broaden our minds.
Gentlemen, let's broaden our minds. Lawrence?
Let's start with solving the mystery from the very beginning. What is the difference between bronzer, blush, and contour? Think of it this way. This is an easy reference. Bronzer can most definitely be used as blush and contour, but not all blushes or contours can be used as bronzer, because when you're wearing it actually as bronzer in the truest sense of the word, not every color is going to look good like that. So let me give you an example. You might have a gorgeous pink or coral or red blush, but if you applied it as bronzer, like I'm going to do later in the video, that you would just look circus fabulous. The key to bronzer is thinking of bronzer as having a sun-kissed effect, not a sunburned effect. Now you hear that all the time. Bronzer, sun-kissed, 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 sun-kissed. But I realize that it still doesn't quite ring a bell. So I'm going to explain to you what sun-kissed really means. Now think about if you spend some time in the sun. Now obviously this is with the exception of those who burn in the sun. But if you don't burn, you usually get this beautiful golden color, or a color that's 1 to 3 shades maybe darker than you. If you just spent a little time, maybe a couple of hours in the sun, you get a little warmer and a little deeper, and it gives this beautiful shaping effect to the face. And now I want you to think about children after you've seen a child like play on the beach for a few hours, and the next time you see them, it's like, wow, you have tanned. They have this beautiful like halo of beautiful burnished color around their face. Usually that beautiful halo of bronzy color has kissed the top of their foreheads, and they're a little rosy or warm in their cheeks, the high places of the face. Also think in terms of someone who has just come back from a tropical vacation. That brings us to our next question, which is, who can actually wear bronzer? And the answer is pretty much every complexion, from the fairest to the deepest end of the spectrum. Here's what you want to think in terms of. Think in terms of the color you would tan if you went 1 to 3 shades deeper than yourself. That's around what you would imagine your bronzer to look like. And then you also want to take into consideration which undertones tend to look good on you. Are they golden or peach or more bronzy coppery? And many times people look great in more than one shade. Now, my fair girls, this is your chance to get that touch of sun without burning. And to my deepest complexions, my very deep complexions, say higher than NW50, that's a MAC reference. If you're getting into that beautiful blue, black, Sudanese type complexions, you want to start thinking more about bronzing with something more coppery, more like lighting up the skin, because when you start thinking about tanning, although the deeper skin tones do tan to a degree, you don't want to go a black or, super muddy, just thinking in terms of darker, 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 darker brown, but you want to enhance your color. Now here is one of my money-making tips. You want to go just 1 to 2 shades darker if you want that really high-end bronzer look. Now, that's going to likely make you feel when you see it, that's not going to show up on me, or this is barely showing up on me, but trust me, that's what you want, that whisper of color. And I'm going to demonstrate that in a little while. Now let's get to the good part. How do I apply bronzer? I did quite a bit of research for this. Even older bronzer ads, a lot of bronzer advertisement, and also a lot of tips and tricks from people, even other artists. And here's what I'm seeing everyone do. They're going straight for the hollows of the cheek, straight for right under that cheekbone. Everyone's like, okay, now I'm going to apply my bronzer. Sometimes somebody might get as high as the apple of the cheek. Or if you've gotten some really detailed advice, they'll say, apply your bronzer in a 3. So a little on the forehead, into that hollow of the cheek again, and onto the chin. Now that's not totally incorrect. In fact, it's not incorrect at all if you like that look. But today I'm going to show you a little bit more about placement of traditional bronzer. Pulled out some brushes that I think would be nice to apply bronzer for varying levels of people experience with makeup. And so if you're a little leery, you can go with the traditional size blush brush. It's going to be smaller and it's going to allow you more control over where you place it at first. However, I think that the most pretty, natural, gorgeous flush comes from big, fluffy, airy brushes because they're going to apply it in an airbrushed way. The other one I don't see recommended as much, but that I love is the fan brush. Not the thin one necessarily, but something a little fluffy and airy. This is another great way, because it's thin, it doesn't hit too much of the face at once, but because it's wide, it gives you that pretty swath of color, and then it hits those forehead edges just so, the chin and the shoulders and so forth. Now with that in mind, the question is, where do we put this bronzer? Now remember I said almost every stitch of research I did had the individual going straight for the hollows of the cheek. Well, the hollows of the cheek is not where the sun naturally hits, is it? That's the place that's darker, deeper, that we often want to carve out and shape out. And yes, bronzers, depending on their tone, can do exactly that. But when we're wearing bronzer as bronzer, we want that warm, sun-kissed, been on vacation look. And so we are hitting the high points of the face where the sun naturally hits. The sun would hit the tops of the cheeks. In fact, you can come in a little closer. Typically, my guideline for blush might be somewhere around the pupil of the eye. It's okay if it warms up a little bit more of the front of the apple of the cheek. Yes, the forehead, because that definitely would be the spot. Now, my bangs are in the way a wee bit, but you'll get a sense of where it goes. But in the sides of the forehead, right in that curve and that halo. Keep this in mind, though. If you have a shorter forehead and you don't want to shorten it, then beware coming in too low or even at all at the top of the forehead if you have your hair pulled back and your hairline is showing. If you have a longer head, longer length, that you want to shorten or you just want to accentuate the natural shape of your face, bronzer is gorgeous placed over the forehead, and then you leave a little area of light right there in the center. It would also hit the tops of the jaw. That's where the sun would bounce from. And then you don't want the rest of the skin to look too pale versus the bronzed face. So you would come in the contours. So where the neck contours, where the collarbones contour. I've got 2 shades I'm going to show you today. They're both by MAC and they're the mineralized skin finish. They sit so gorgeous on the skin. They don't have shimmer, but they're not a matte powder either, so they give your skin a bit of a glow too. Another thing about bronzers, you can use them with a hint of shimmer, but be careful if you're using it as bronzer because you don't want your face to go glittery unless you just want to go glittery that day. So the two I have are Give Me Sun, which is the lighter of the two, and that's a soft tan with a sort of yellow golden undertone. And then I have Sun Power, which is a rich, warm, reddish tone brown, and it's very strong on my complexion. Give Me Sun is that one that I said, this is the kind of color you would pick out that's just maybe 2 shades darker than you, and when you look at it in the container, you're like, that's not going to show up on me, and when you start applying it, you're like, that's barely showing up on me, but trust me, it makes a difference. And we're going to swirl that around in our product. And make sure your brush is evenly covered, because sometimes we just hit that one side of the brush and then the first area you hit will be too much of a deposit of color. But I like to, tap my bristles evenly so that they're evenly covered. And then I'll tap it lightly on my hand so that there's really barely anything left on the brush. May not make sense, but I'm telling you, it gives you this airy, airbrushed application that makes it look like it's coming from within your skin, and you'll get compliments about your skin in addition to your makeup. So I'm going to start hitting with the Sun would hit, which is the tops of the cheeks and the fronts of the face. You start with that beautiful flush right here in the center. A good guideline is not to come down as far as the corner of the mouth here. So you don't want to come past the corner of the mouth here. But if it comes as far down as the tip of the nose here, then you're fine. So see here, normally people go back here for blush or they go here for bronzer. I am coming right dead center. So think about placing it as close in as the iris, the inner iris of the eye. And I'm going to start sweeping that. And because I have so little on my brush, it's very difficult to mess this up. And you might wonder, I don't see much of a difference, but wait till I show you the side-by-side photos and you'll get the sense of it. And this just is a beautiful way to shape your face. It looks younger and it looks healthy. This is a great alternative to blush when you've done a more intense eye or when you've done a smoky eye. This is really elegant. With a nude lip, this is gorgeous. So you can see I'm building that color up slowly but surely. And although it's subtle, it's having an impact on the shape, as you can see. And I would get above the brow right in here. So I would create 2 beautiful halos on each side and going around if I had my hair off of my face. And I would leave the temples a little lighter, a little more open, so that you really get that sun-kissed effect and it doesn't look like I tried bronzer. Now, as for the rest of the body, you want to take that against the jawline, and now the placement depends on the shape of your face. Now, once you've done this, a lot of times the neck and the chest start looking obviously light. Now, if I'm wearing a collared shirt or dress or mock neck or turtleneck, it won't matter as much. But if any of your neck or décolleté are exposed, then you definitely want to bronze them as well. So I would go right down the sides of the neck here. And I would kiss my shoulders and collarbone. Now that is the look with the subtle bronzer, the Give Me Sun. But the next one I'm going to show you is a more warm, intense look with the Sun Power bronzer. I might not typically go this red myself, but for the purpose of the video, I want you to see what the more intense bronzer looks like. And people do love this look as well. And we're going to start building that onto the face. And we talked about all of the high points of the face except for the nose. And bronzer really ties the look in when you swirl some over the bridge of the nose. But you don't want to cover the nose. You don't want to give the nose a red bronze stripe going down the center. It looks better if you scatter it across the nose kind of like where freckles would fall if you naturally freckled. So not too high on the bridge, not too low on the tip, but right across that middle. If you skim the middle of the nose with like an airy light whisper of the bronzer, it ties the look in and makes it really look pretty. You might get the compliment that, you know, your makeup looks so pretty, or you look so fresh and pretty, or you look like you just came from vacation, things of that nature. So you obviously can see something's been done, but if you don't use too heavy of a hand, you'll get the right kind of compliments. I hear a lot of people say, that's not dark enough, that's not going to fit me, that's not going to suit me. And I want to show you that when you're wearing bronzer as bronzer, it doesn't need to be so much more deeper than your natural skin tone. The 1 or 2 shades will give you that whisper-like bronzer. But I do know lots of girls that love that intense look, and by all means, then go for it. So there it is, pretty people, how to wear bronzer. And I have a lot more videos geared toward more education coming up. For example, primer. Do you really need that? What is it really? And what kinds are good, or are any of them good? Are they just hoaxes? So there's more content like that coming very soon. I enjoy doing this so much, and I hope you enjoyed it as well. You can wear your bronzer however you wish, as long as you keep it pretty.